I'm Alan. I'm a Zorianna Kit, and today we review Twist, which I found out is a parkour Gen Z adaptation of Oliver Twist. And
Wait, did you
yep.
find out after you watched the movie or before you
No,
watched
but as the movie started, I realized, oh, this is what I got myself into.
Yeah.
To me, the saving grace of this movie is Michael Caine and Lena Headey. You know, so what did you think of Twist?
Okay, this movie is just this, it's so silly. It is so, it's like this cartoon, but also wants to be like a Guy Ritchie movie or like an Ocean's 11 kind of a hype movie, but it just is not. But listen, before we dive into the implausibility of this whole thing, let's just get it out of the way. It stars Rafferty Law, who is the son of Jude Law, who is a spitting image of his father. Like, I kept looking at this film going, oh my God, it's like a twin. It's like you step back in a time machine. It is uncanny. It's incredible. I couldn't get over it. Took me out of the movie so many times going, oh my God, you look like your dad. You look like your dad.
Yeah. So far you found one of the good things about the movie.
So anyways, I had to get that off my chest because that's just, if you for my generation who grew up watching Jude Law, like that's just, it's so glaring.
Yeah. He's just reproduced himself for a brand new generation.
Exactly.
Hey, so let's talk about these adaptations. This is not the first time anyone's tried to do a modern adaptation of a classic story. I don't know. To me, it feels like, well, why are we doing this other than, maybe it's the fact that unless they did that, the studio wouldn't produce it because it's no one likes original stories anymore. And
because there's an educational component that you're
reading. Well, no, I think there's
a classic novel on screen.
You know what it is? To me, it's the fact that these studios are going to invest millions, if not $100 million, into movies like this. I'm pretty sure it's like we're around the $50 million mark, and so that's a lot of money to invest. And so they're not going to risk on a story that no one's familiar with. And so if you just say that this is Oliver Twist, then people are more likely to go see it, which just really, this is the problem I have with Hollywood, is that they are so unwilling to invest in original ideas that everything has to be based on a story of the past or some intellectual property they own.
Yes, or just an intellectual property name, but then the current version has nothing to do with that.
like Snake Eyes. All right.
This movie, the whole, there's so much parkour happening here. Mm-hmm. But to me, I don't know, maybe I have a better trained eye than others by virtue of my background is working in the visual effects industry. But even though this has nothing to do with visual effects, the parkour was to me so obviously done by stunt people. Like anytime there was a parkour scene or any type of a fight scene, it automatically like pans out and you see a body wearing the wig of that person, and then they go to
or a hoodie. Get your hoodie up.
Yeah. And then when they cut to the actor, when they're done their parkour, like they're not huffing and puffing like they would have been after they had just like physically gone through this entire thing. So just watching that it just looked so cheap and just so see-through for me that to me it was laughable.
Yeah, but this has been happening since the 70s. Airplane did a great it was Airplane Airplane did a great take where it's some guy with a beard and a mustache with a blonde wig on and a dress, and it's I came to this point where we expect it. I guess when we see it, we're so it's so ingrained in us to just accept it that I think when a studio attempts to do it and does it right, that we're mildly surprised. I mean, I think Marvel does it pretty well.
Well, I mean, you look at like Bourne Identity, which this kind of reminded me from the standpoint that you've got all these kids, jumping off rooftops. You've got all these kids jumping off rooftops and doing the kind of stuff that like Matt Damon was doing when he was running across buildings. But in that case, Matt Damon was doing everything himself. Maybe there were some stunt people. So it was, when he's out of breath, he's legit out of breath. These kids, it's like their makeup is perfect. They're not a hair strand out of place. And I mean, it's like a cartoon. It's just, but it's not a spoof though. So that's why, like, when you see it not done properly, it just makes you kind of, it cheapens the whole thing. I mean, Airplane is a spoof. That's okay to make fun of it. But in this movie,
because it's self-aware, I
mean, this movie supposedly takes itself seriously, but like, okay, for example, let's talk about the warehouse or the setting in which all these orphans.
The orphanage,
the orphanage, right? It looks like the coolest Urban Outfitters store you have ever seen. And
that's true. They have a whole rack of clothes for people to wear, and
yes. And they never repeat the same outfit, and it's the most, I mean, I would love to live there. It's just the coolest place. And for some reason, the cops or the feds or whoever is investigating them, not the feds, because that's American, but like the authorities, for lack of a better word, have no clue that like all these years in this warehouse, there's an entire, shop.
Teen crime syndicate.
Totally. Like, it's no clue. Like, are they not tracking these people or?
Yeah. So here's the thing Twist is basically the next film in a very long line of what Hollywood does or what movies do. It takes a story and it just presents it in a modern tale and really doesn't do anything to elevate it other than bring in familiar elements of the current generation. In the 80s, this would have been a breakdancing movie. In the 90s, this was all about skateboarding. And then, we're probably going inline skating in the 2000s. It's just, in 10 years, this movie is going to be told in a different way. Who knows what the kids will be into, but it's a machine. It's a production machine, and they're just going to keep producing in this way.
Except they stick in like an iconic actor who's clearly there just for the paycheck, which we've seen in recent reviews. Okay, so here we have Michael Caine collecting a paycheck for pretty much sitting at a table or sitting behind a desk the whole time. Unless he's got like a fake mustache and a wheelchair where he's like pretending to be a Russian person in disguise. And then in Lansky, basically Harvey Keitel as Meyer Lansky basically sat in a cafe and spoke words the whole time. And then we reviewed a movie that starred Morgan Freeman, who was like in a wheelchair staring at a screen the whole time. So now we've got these iconic actors who are entering their octogenarian years, who are still, vital or have vitality, but like they're just making it easy for them to just say yes to a paycheck by giving them this, sit down here, say your lines, and collect a paycheck. And it's just a waste of their talent. I mean, I think it's, it's a waste of their talent, but it's also, to me, it was necessary for this movie to keep it from going completely eye roll. As much as it is a paycheck for Michael Caine and Lena Headey, they do an actually pretty good job in their film. You're saying that they're there to ground things a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, because again, ironically, Michael Caine could have been in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s version of this movie.
Yes.
But that's why he's such a sought after actor, is because he has not gotten to the point yet where he is phoning it in. Yeah. That time may come soon, but fortunately not in this movie.
And also he starred, he worked with Jude Law twice. He was, they worked together. I can't remember the names of the two movies, but like, I remember. It's
probably on some island paradise or something.
I just remember being at a press junket and interviewing the two of them. So it's just so funny that now Michael Caine is working with Jude Law 2.0 with Rafferty. But you know, there was another sort of plot line that happens in this movie that I was sort of offended by. It was so cheap.
Was it the bisexual power move?
Okay, well, yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Out of the blue, we get introduced to this lesbian storyline that did not build up to anything. It was like the filmmakers one day on set decided, like, hey, you know what? You two are going to be lovers. Like it,
yeah.
And on top of that, it's not just that they're lesbian or bisexual. It's that it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's why I describe it as a power move. You know, the relationship exists for control.
But why, you know, we recently reviewed a movie that discusses the LGBTQ community and all the, you know, the issues and just why take that community and create an abusive power struggle with that particular relationship?
Yeah, you know, it's
a heterosexual relationship. I mean, why just?
Well, why? You know, I feel like we're in this woke time, and you know, it's weird, but I feel like it was added because it needed an LGBTQ element to it.
Yeah, but it turned out to be a negative one. It wasn't a positive one.
Sure. I mean, that's honestly, that's a bigger discussion as in terms of the direction movies are taking in light of the woke culture, you know, because I feel like the sense was they needed an element like that, and this was it, and that maybe it was a misguided attempt at it, or I can't imagine it was a serious attempt.
I found the power abuse move within that offensive and completely unnecessary.
And honestly, I'm not sure in terms of the way the real relationship plays out that, you know, did it need to be there? You know, I don't know. It just felt so unnecessary that you could have still told the same story without it, and or at least try to come up with some way of doing it a little more sensitively.
Yeah.
All right. So you seemed less than whelmed by this movie. You know, I don't know. I have such non-feelings about this movie.
Right. I know.
And for you, I think it's the same way. So I'll guess maybe with the presence of Michael Caine, Lena Headey, that you gave it a 4.
Well, I gave it a 5. But, you know, maybe I should have given it a 4. I gave it a 5 because, you know, I started watching it with such hope and promise that this was going to be some really cool, funky film that would be entertaining in that kind of here's another Bruce Willis action movie kind of thing, you know, like just something like paint by numbers. But God, it devolved real quickly into just something worse. So that's why I'm giving it a 5, because I was on the fence at first, but it's still, for me, it's not a recommend in any case. It's interesting that you said 4, because I almost feel like that's actually your recommendation is a 4, because we both, I think, dislike this movie so much. But did you give it a 4?
No, I gave it a 5 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say, from a production standpoint, I love this movie. I love the look of the movie. I love, you know, some of the a good portion of the action I liked, and I do like Michael Caine and Lena Headey, and but you know, again, we talked about it. It's just a rehash. It's just another another film off the assembly line, and there'll be more to come after this. And you know, again, it's like, well, here it is. You know, they made it, and we'll move on to the next classic to modernize. So There's enough to like about it to give it the 5, but it's definitely not a recommendation on my part.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so what did you think of Twist? Did you watch it? Did you dare?
You probably didn't, so you probably won't get a lot of feedback on this one.
Kind of. But if you did, hey, let us know what you thought. Like, subscribe below, and with that, let's get out of here.